What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to today's Finest for May 2nd, 2018, fueled, as always, by Nerd Teas. New month, new blend. Today's blend is root beer float. I think it's probably my second last cup of root beer float. I'm really going to have to do a new order soon enough. It's a nice sweet tooth touch. It's tasty. It's delicious. Root beer float. Due diligence, let's see the sub count, and I was so excited to do this episode because pretty well all week the sub count had gone up. It was up to 868, and then I checked this morning and it's back down to 866. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's fine. It's no change from the last episode. Hey, at least we're not going backwards. This is also your reminder to follow the channel and the show on Snapchat, BWF_902. I just had a new person add the Snapchat page in the last couple of days, so thank you very much for that. BWF_902 on Snapchat. Get some content that you can't get anywhere else. Find it on Snapchat. So if you'll remember from the previous episode, I believe a week ago, my original hook was that I was going to talk about my reactions to the first round NHL playoff matchups. Now that seems a little passé because most of the matchups are into at least Game 3, if not heading into Game 4 in the second round. So it just feels like who's going to be interested in the way that I reacted to stuff that happened a week ago. What is really interesting is my team had a thing that happened. It's a way more exciting thing. And I feel like for at least some of this video, I'm going to be channeling my good buddy Steve Dangle. The Montreal Canadiens won an NHL Draft Lottery pick. More specifically, the third overall pick. In case you don't know, at the end of the regular season, the NHL takes all of the teams that did not make the playoffs. Now that there are 31 teams, we're talking about 15 of them. There are 15 teams that did not make the playoffs. Those 15 teams all go into a lottery, and each team has a different odd of winning the number one overall pick in that year's upcoming entry draft. The worse you did in the regular season, the better your odds of getting the first overall pick, which is a system I actually kind of like because it gives lower performing teams, it gives them each at least a chance to get something. And it's not just the first overall pick, it's the first three picks considered the lottery picks: first overall, second overall, and third overall. Now granted, you do get better odds the worse you do, but being the last place team does not automatically guarantee you the first overall pick. So Montreal came into the draft lottery with a 9.5% chance to win the lottery and win the first overall pick, to likely take pretty well consensus number one, Rasmus Dahlin, a defenseman out of Sweden. Montreal had the fourth best odds in the lottery behind Buffalo, Arizona, and Ottawa. Now, Buffalo, who came in with the best odds at winning the first overall pick, did win the first overall pick. So this was an instance where the last place team did get the first overall pick, but they still had to win it, so I'm still okay with that. The drawing for the second overall pick was won by the Carolina Hurricanes, who came in with just a 3.3% chance of winning that second overall pick. And then Montreal, whose odds went up from 9.5 to 9.7 with the third overall pick, ended up winning that pick after some drawing shenanigans apparently behind the scenes, but we just won't question that. Montreal got the pick. So, the third overall pick, and what will probably amount to 5 picks in the top 60 of this year's entry draft. This is one of the most important entry drafts in the history of this franchise, certainly the modern history. So now what? As always, at least with the third overall pick, you got 3 options. You keep it, you try to trade up, or you try to trade down. First things first, I feel the need to point out, to just make it very crystal clear with everything that we're going to talk about in this video. The Montreal Canadiens are a rebuilding franchise. Don't at me. There's no arguments. Montreal is in a rebuild. So with that in mind, let's look at these 3 scenarios as I've mentioned them, and I'm going to start with the one that I think is the least likely, trading up. And it's not just because, well, you only have 2 trading partners if you want to trade up. You only got Buffalo and Carolina. They're the only teams picking in front of you. It's not just that. It's the situations, too. Pop quiz, hotshot. When's the last time the Buffalo Sabres picked first overall? Time's up. 1987. That's almost as old as I am. It's been 31 years since the Buffalo Sabres have picked first overall in the NHL Entry Draft. And that plays with a team. That plays on a team's mind. Like, look, we haven't had a first overall pick since, the 80s, the late 80s. What also plays a role is the prospect of having the Rasmuses as your number 1 defensive pairing like next season. I honestly think Dahlin is good enough to step right into the NHL out of camp, make the team next year, and he could probably play on that first defensive pairing. If you think about having Rasmus Dahlin and Rasmus Ristolainen as Buffalo's top defensive pair, what in the world is going to make them pass that up? As far as I'm concerned, Buffalo's not trading that pick for anything less than multiple high draft picks. So it's going to take, obviously, the 3rd overall pick. It's going to take multiple of the 2nd round picks that Montreal has, which they have 4 2nd round picks. I would have to be so sold on Rasmus Dahlin being the next coming of Bobby Orr to really put all of my eggs in that one basket. The price is just too high as far as I'm concerned, so I can't see them trading up with Buffalo. As far as the Hurricanes go, Carolina's team needs are basically the same as what Montreal's are. Their primary need is offense, and those prospects in the 2 and 3 and even down in the 4 spot, those top 3 prospects after Rasmus Dahlin, it's all offense. So while it would certainly be cheaper to move up just from number 3 to number 2, would probably only cost maybe your best 2nd round pick as well as, number 3 overall, or maybe your 2 worst 2nd round picks. All that really does you by trading up 1 spot is ensuring that you have your choice. Is that, for a rebuilding franchise, worth probably giving up a top 40 pick for in addition to number 3 overall? As far as I'm concerned, no. So that's a long way of saying I don't really think there's a path that makes sense for me in terms of Montreal trying to trade up. Well then, what about the prospect of trading down? The benefit to trading down, especially in the first round of an entry draft, is your return is usually pretty good because the teams behind you are desperate to get a particular player. I think they would have a couple of willing trading partners in those 2 teams that had better odds than Montreal but came up empty in terms of winning a lottery pick. You're talking about Ottawa and you're talking about Arizona. Now, since Ottawa holds the 4th pick and Arizona holds the 5th pick, I believe that's the way that it works, or maybe it's an opposite. The picks are only 1 or 2 behind Montreal's pick. So the return on trading with them is probably only that team's 2nd round pick. Maybe you can get them into a bidding war and get like another 4th or something out of them. But I've got a couple of teams in mind who have multiple 1st round picks that may be looking to trade up into the top 3. And those teams both come from New York. I'm talking about the New York Rangers and the New York Islanders. The New York Rangers have three 1st round picks in this year's draft, including number 9 overall. They're launching into their own kind of rebuild. They've got 3 1st round picks, and the prospect of maybe moving 2 of those picks, like say number 9 and then maybe Boston's. I mean, look, New York's kind of playing with a little bit of house money. They can turn those picks into a bona fide NHL super prospect. They may want to do that where they're playing with so much house money. And then you look at the Islanders, because of some savvy moves, they hold the number 11 and number 12 overall draft picks. So they have a choice. Do we want to make 2 1st round selections in a row, or do we want to package those 2 picks to one of the top 3 teams, probably get a little extra something back in return in order to move up into the top 3, and again, maybe get one of those elite prospects at the top of this draft class? I'm just saying, don't sleep on the Rangers and don't sleep on the Islanders because they've got assets to move. Let's see if they do something with them. I mean, if Montreal trades down a couple of spots, I think you're basically committing to the idea that you're going to draft a defenseman. After the first few forward prospects, there's a big chunk of really high caliber defensive prospects that I think are all going to go basically inside the top 10. So I think if you do trade down, you're targeting a defensive prospect like, say, Evan Bouchard. Bouchard is a Canadian defenseman, plays with the London Knights of the Ontario Hockey League. I got his numbers here: 42 goals and 162 points in 206 games over 3 seasons with the London Knights. London is a really good franchise in the OHL, but Evan Bouchard has put up numbers for them. Maybe you could be looking at a player like Noah Dobson. He's also Canadian, also a defenseman, plays for Acadie Bathurst in the Quebec League with Halifax, 25 goals and 104 points in 151 games over the span of 2 seasons in Acadie Bathurst. Or they could potentially look overseas to a player like Adam Boqvist, who I believe is a teammate of Rasmus Dahlin. 21 goals and 45 points in 48 games, so that's almost a point a game in the span of 2 seasons in the Swedish Super Elite. Now look, it's worth pointing out to the people that scoff at the idea of, oh my god, they're never going to trade a top 3 pick. Look, Marc Bergevin came out and said, we are open to trading this pick. So it's not unrealistic at all that Montreal chooses to move that pick. Then, of course, there's the most likely scenario, which is they just keep the pick. So, assuming Montreal does keep the pick, I'm guessing that they're going to be targeting either Filip Zadina or Andrei Svechnikov. Filip Zadina is a Czech right winger from my Halifax Mooseheads, in the Quebec League, of course. He has had 49 goals and 94 points in 66 games in the regular season and in the playoffs. Pretty damn incredible. About 1.5 a game. A little lower than 1.5 a game. Svechnikov is a Russian right winger, plays with the Barrie Colts of the Ontario Hockey League, had himself a pretty damn excellent season as well. 45 goals and 83 points, but that was in just 52 games. So it's also basically 1.5 a game. I also don't want to discount the possibility there is the outside shot that Montreal chooses to target a player like Brady Tkachuk. Now, he's an American left winger, plays in the NCAA Division I in Hockey East with Boston University, had 8 goals and 31 points in 40 games. If we stay at number 3, Bridgewater's Finest, on behalf of Marc Bergevin and the Montreal Canadiens, selects Filip Zadina, right winger, Halifax, Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Where I give Zadina the edge over Svechnikov and over Tkachuk is just the incredible skill level, and I feel like it's just that little bit higher than a player like Svechnikov especially. Brady Tkachuk has that crash the net, James Van Riemsdyk power forward streak in him, which is a nice thing to have. I just don't have him going over either Svechnikov or Zadina. Svechnikov's a few inches taller than Zadina is, but Zadina has more weight on him, which means as their careers progress and once they put on their quote-unquote big boy weight, I still think Zadina is going to be the heavier player. But as the heavier player, I think he's the stronger player, and he's incredibly just lightning fast. And in Halifax, I've seen a number of really, really good European prospects come through that pipeline. I don't know that I've ever seen one as good as Filip Zadina. That's why I got to take him. If he's there at number 3, I'm jumping all over him if I'm Bergevin. So, who do you root for in the NHL? Was your team part of the draft lottery? Are you happy with where your team wound up? Who do you think Montreal should take at number 3? Or what do you think Montreal should do with the number 3 overall pick? All of that, put it in the comment section below. All right, we're done talking about hockey, folks. If you remember from the last episode, which I guess now was about a week ago, I mentioned to you that I've started a new project. I'm working with Tyler on this project called Library Chess Productions. The link is in the description down below. Tyler was very upset that I didn't mention his bunny when I talked about it last time. So, hey, Tyler's got a bunny. He's the 3rd member of the team. He's the best member of the team and everything that is good in this world. The reason I bring it up again this week is, hey, we've been pretty damn active in the last week, posting movie reviews for You Were Never Really Here, Super Troopers 2, Avengers Infinity War, and more content. We put up a bunch of content in the last week. Make sure you check out Library Chess Productions. And I would be remiss if one more time I didn't mention the great folks at NerdTees. Use promo code BWFinest on nerdtees.ca. Save yourself 15% at checkout. Free shipping on Canadian orders over $50. If you're American, get the great bounce on the US dollar. It's a great product. The people that run it are incredible. Nerdtees.ca, promo code BWFinest. That's pretty much going to wrap us up for this episode, folks. The next time we're going to see each other, as far as today's finest, I'm not 100% sure because, again, based on sort of what we talked about here, I'm working on a mock NHL entry draft, and that does take a little while, so that'll probably be the next piece of content you see from me, but you never know, I might slide in here with a today's finest, take everybody by surprise. But here is your hook for next time when we join each other again. Obviously, as anybody can tell if you've ever watched a single video of mine, I'm kind of a big guy. I'm kind of a heavy dude. I've been a heavy dude most of my life, really. And I've been trying, at least in, baby steps, giant baby steps, to try to help make that better over the last, over the last few years. So I kind of want to talk about my particular health journey because everybody's health journey is different. Everybody does things differently. So, hey, why not talk about that on here? I don't feel like I've ever really incorporated that into an episode before. All right, folks, that's going to wrap us up for today's finest for the 2nd of May, 2018. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. I hope you're enjoying the NHL playoffs so far. I hope you're looking forward to the entry draft because now that Montreal has the 3rd pick, I certainly am. And we will see you next time, hopefully with an NHL entry mock draft, but maybe with a new Today's Finest. See you next time.